Hi everyone, I hope that you're doing fine. Today I would like to talk a bit about a very important topic, which is about avoidance strategies, emotional avoidance strategies that we mostly unconsciously use to avoid our uncomfortable feelings and emotions. You know, after my previous video that I generally talked about emotions and feelings and the way we approach them, we deal with them, I've been thinking that it's also very important to mention something about our emotional strategies and the way we approach these feelings that are experienced as overwhelming maybe sometimes for us, and we can use also these strategies as a conscious level, that we know that they are using these, we are aware that we are using these strategies, but since these feelings are very unpleasant, then we take a choice to not deal with them and to avoid that situation that caused these feelings, right? So these avoidance strategies are so important in the context of psychotherapy and clinical psychology in general, because we believe that they have a very important role in maintaining these symptoms and psychological conditions, psychological reactions that people struggle with. Because the thing that happens in unconscious level is that when we start learning that we have to avoid those situations that cause these uncomfortable feelings in us, that these mechanism becomes robust and get worse over time, and then it becomes a part of us that wants to at some point protect us, and so protection will be a function here. And this, protection based service that our mind is conditioned or has learned to use will cause some symptoms, because it's like that. It's the way that it happens is because that our mind is very, very smart and all the time wants to help us get rid of some very unpleasant or overwhelming situation which at some point are associated with collapse or some catastrophic outcomes emotionally, psychologically. And then if we feel that some certain situations may consist of or may result in some very uncomfortable feelings that it's like very unpleasant and we cannot stand them, our mind start learning that, okay, to help you to survive, then I switch off this part of you that produce these feelings, right? And then can come some symptoms like numbness, like disassociation, like depression, like anxiety, like panic attacks, and so on. So in the context of psychotherapy, in many cases we understand symptoms as some signals that we have to interpret. We have to understand and read again and identify what's the origin of them and where they come from and why they are there, right? In many cases, these symptoms and reactions like anxiety attacks or like sleep problems or depressive thoughts or excessive thoughts like concerns and ruminations, they can be sign of a fact that at some unconscious level some needs are not covered, are not met, like fundamental needs to be seen or to see or acknowledge some very important parts of us which have some emotional character, right? So these avoidance strategy, they get conditioned. It means that to stimuli that they didn't have any relationships with each other before, like in this case is like certain situations that potentially cause some unpleasant feelings in us and some unpleasant and overwhelming emotions like grief, like embarrassment, shame, like anger and rage, sadness. For many of us can be very overwhelming. These two, like they get connected, so it will be like a casual or like association direction with it too, and they get like there will be a contingency or like a conditioning association between them. And then whenever you are placed in that situation or similar situation that reminds your body that you are in danger, because there is possibility that these kind of emotions get arised, then you need your avoidance strategies to do something to protect yourself. So we can, in other words, say that our body, our brain thinks that it's protecting us and it's doing a favor for us, but that goes like against our authentic and our real needs to meet and to see every natural or real parts of ourselves, our emotions, right? So that's why in psychotherapy in general, so for summarizing it to a very, at a very concrete level, we can see that in psychotherapy we are very interested in studying, investigating which kind of defense mechanism, avoidance strategy this person uses at the very subconscious level that cause that this person gets these symptoms. And if we use these avoidance strategies for a while, then we get bigger and bigger symptoms and reactions, and it will be very difficult for us to see, to identify, and to unlearn these associations, right? To switch off these avoidance strategies. Avoidance strategies can actually occur in many levels. We have like very subtle and very hidden form of avoidance strategies, and we have also very concrete and very obvious forms of them at behavioral levels. So some examples for behavioral, like emotional avoidance strategies, is like avoiding exposing yourself to some certain situation, like social situations, or having emotionally loaded conversations, difficult conversation with your boss, with your loved ones, or for example, saying goodbye to a loved one can be very overwhelming situation, and can result in that you get very sad, or you feel other sorts of unpleasant feelings that you feel that you cannot tolerate. And then instead of exposing yourself to that situation, you can avoid this, for example, by making excuses, or to not attend, or to use some sort of arguments to not meet up, or for example, we have also people who have had panic attacks, right? And have experienced that they can feel that they may die, because it feels like for many people at least, it feels like nearly like heart attacks, or many people feel that, I will die now. It's like it's the last second of my life, right? So it's a totally overwhelming emotional state for many people. And also it can be sign of that these people have ignored many of their anxieties or symptoms, and that's why the systems have developed a panic attack. But anyway, we're not talking about panic attacks, but my point here is that when some people that have these anxiety attacks and reactions, then they start doing something at behavioral level to not expose themselves to social occasions, to social situations and with other people. Or they, for example, they stop training because some physical sensations, some movements, and higher level of physical and physiological activity may trigger panic attacks. So they do everything consciously, unconsciously, right, to avoid some situations that can trigger some anxiety problems. Or we have other forms of strategies that are a little more tricky, like cognitive strategies. For example, we have people that use a lot of intellectualizations, right, or rationalizations or distractions, disassociation as subtle forms of avoidance. But when it comes to these types of avoidance strategies, it's little more difficult to identify that this is actually an avoidance strategy. It means that you try unconsciously to diminish, to reduce the emotional load of a situation, to just stick to that cognitive part and intellectual part of that situation or an event, to protect yourself from that overwhelming event, situations, happenings, or whatever that's surrounding you, right? But without knowing that you're doing that, because to be cognitively strong person is like a very positive things, right? Especially nowadays in a modern life, is technology life. Then we at some point we have to be very cognitively resourceful person to be able to succeed in many life arenas nowadays, and that's why it will be a little difficult to track and to navigate if this is actually just a normal cognitive strategy that is based on the needs of or requirements of this special situation, or it is actually some sort of hidden avoidance strategy where the person wants to avoid these overwhelming feelings. For example, maybe you have also seen people that try to intellectualize or rationalize situations by insisting that these loss or these catastrophe or these very bad or tragic situations that happen to them is doesn't matter. It will be okay. So they have like very simplistic or very intellectual way of dealing with that situation. So they want to reduce this emotional load associated with that situation, because perhaps they cannot tolerate, because it's about an overwhelming feelings of being connected and coming into contact with their body, which has registered and has these emotions inside, right? So, and also some people use very concrete form of avoidance strategies, like using some safety objects, some safety signals. For example, having a particular symbol or an object, or it can be a prayer book or something that gives them this, this little false but temporary feeling of safety. They have it with them in those situations that can be emotionally arousing or can be emotionally very, very provoking for them. Then these objects can give them some sorts of feelings of safety. So, but the problem is that when we use these safety objects, then it steals the opportunity from us to unlearn that these situations are not actually dangerous, right? Because every time we just this situation, being there, being present there by relying on these safety objects, and then we cannot reflect, we cannot investigate, and we cannot check in and see what type of emotions are there that we really want to escape from, or elude or exclude from ourselves. So that's a pity, right? That's something that's very destructive. So emotional avoidance strategy are generally destructive mental mechanisms that has a very big contribution in producing symptoms and mental reactions. So that's very important to be aware of that and start reflecting, okay, what kind of reactions or habits I do have that may have some implications for my therapy works, for my self-help, for for these strategies, are these coping strategies that I do are constructive ones, or they may also be like avoidance strategies that I unconsciously do. For example, also these rumination and excessive negative thoughts that many of us can have can be also sign of emotional escape, that don't want to go in our body and feel these feelings because it just I cannot stand it. It's out of my ability scope to tolerate and to room. And then also we have procrastination, which is unfortunately one of the very common strategies that people, especially young adolescents, use to maybe escape, right? Like social media use, it's also very typical one, a common one that everyone uses. So please check out if you are using these YouTube just checking videos and being here because of some overwhelming situation inside you, or you're just curious about mental health and that's why you just came here. So anyway, I'm very glad to have you here, and so I hope that you find it interesting and you find it helpful, and I really hope that you start thinking a little more and closely about these topic, these strategies, and start screening and checking out if you have also some kind of strategies that you have to change or modify. Anyway, again, thank you for joining me. I hope that you have got something new, and let us keep in touch and again talk about emotion topic, because it's a huge and important topic, and I have a lot to tell. So thank you.